Spring 1944, 20,000 feet over New Guinea. 6 German-built fighters in perfect formation. Lead pilot follows doctrine exactly. Scan the sky every 8 seconds. Check altitude. Check wingmen. Check fuel. Perfect visibility for 30 miles in every direction. No clouds, no glare, nothing but blue sky and the green jungle far below. At 300 yards, something should be there. American doctrine says P-38 fighters are too big to miss. Too heavy to hide. 2 engines. 2 fuselages. Like spotting a bus in an empty parking lot. The pilot's head swivels left. Nothing. He checks right. Still nothing. His instruments show no radar contact. His wingmen report clear sky. Then his number 3 explodes. No warning. No tracer fire. No engine sound. Just a .50 caliber round through the cockpit and a fireball tumbling toward the jungle. The pilot banks hard. Standard evasive maneuver. His training says turn into the attack, present the smallest target, make the shooter work for the angle. But there is no angle, there is no shooter, the sky is empty. His number 5 goes next. Same pattern, instant kill, no warning. The pilot sees the bullet holes stitched across the wing, perfect grouping, dead center. Like someone used a ruler to draw a line through the aircraft. 45 seconds, 2 kills, 0 visual contact. The remaining 4 pilots scatter. Doctrine says don't cluster when under attack. They dive. They climb. They split in 4 directions. One of them lasts another 20 seconds before his engine explodes. The bullet entered through the spinner, traveled the length of the engine block. Exited through the firewall. Impossible shot. Impossible accuracy. 3 pilots make it home. They file reports. Intelligence officers read the reports and set them aside. The pattern doesn't match anything in the manual. Americans don't shoot like that. Nobody shoots like that. But it keeps happening. Over the next 3 weeks, 11 more Japanese fighters go down over New Guinea. Same pattern every time. No visual contact until the shooting starts. Perfect shot placement. Engine kills. Cockpit kills. No wasted ammunition. The Japanese survivors all report the same thing. They followed doctrine. They maintained formation. They scanned the sky. The American plane appeared from nowhere, not from the sun, not from clouds, not from altitude advantage. Just appeared, fired. Disappeared. Intelligence analyzes the wreckage. The bullet groupings are impossible. Wing-mounted guns create convergence problems. Bullets spread wide at close range. They cross at 300 yards. They spread again beyond that distance. Every air force in the world deals with this problem. It's basic physics. But these groupings show no spread. The bullets stay together. They punch through metal in a tight cluster the size of a dinner plate. At 400 yards, at 200 yards, at 600 yards. The distance doesn't matter. The accuracy stays perfect. One pilot survives a direct attack. His wingman dies. He doesn't. He banks hard the moment he sees tracer fire. The American fighter flashes past him going the opposite direction. Head-on pass. Closing speed over 600 miles per hour. The survivor catches a 3-second glimpse of the aircraft. Twin engines, twin booms, central pod, fork-tailed design, P-38 Lightning. Americans call it the Lightning. Germans call it the fork-tailed Devil. Japanese call it a target. Because the P-38 is famous for being easy to kill. It's huge. It's slow in turns. It burns fuel like a transport plane. Doctrine says if a Zero catches a P-38 in a turning fight, the P-38 dies. Simple math. The Zero weighs 5,000 pounds. The P-38 weighs 12,000 pounds. Physics favors the lighter plane. But this P-38 isn't turning. It's flying straight. It's shooting straight. It's killing with impossible accuracy. And then it's gone before anyone can shoot back. Japanese command holds an emergency briefing. They have 11 dead pilots. They have wreckage with impossible bullet patterns. They have 1 3-second visual identification. They need an explanation. The experts form a theory. The theory makes perfect sense. The P-38 must be carrying experimental weapons. Think about it. Standard machine guns can't shoot that accurately. The bullet spread proves it. So this P-38 must have something new. Maybe a modified gun mount. Maybe a new barrel design. Maybe a targeting system nobody has seen before. Evidence supports this theory. American engineers love experimental weapons. They test new technology constantly. Rockets, new cannons, different ammunition types. Why not a targeting system? The Japanese experts examine the wreckage again. They measure bullet groupings. They calculate trajectories. They run the numbers. The conclusion is clear. Standard convergence creates a 15-foot spread at 300 yards. This grouping measures 30 inches. That's 600% improvement. No standard weapon does that. Intelligence searches for information. They interrogate prisoners. They examine captured aircraft. They find nothing. No experimental weapons. No modified mounts. No targeting systems. Just standard P-38 Lightnings with standard armament. But the kills continue. 2 more fighters go down. Same pattern, same accuracy, same mystery. Japanese command issues new orders. Stay away from P-38s. Don't engage unless you have numerical superiority. Don't let them shoot first. The P-38 suddenly becomes the most dangerous fighter in the Pacific. Not because it's fast. Not because it's maneuverable. Because it shoots like nothing else in the sky. Pilots follow the new orders. They avoid P-38s. They maintain distance. They refuse to engage unless conditions are perfect. And the kill count drops, from 11 in 3 weeks to 3 in 2 weeks. The new doctrine seems to work. Until it doesn't. 3rd week of April 1944. 4 Japanese fighters encounter a lone P-38 over the coast. The P-38 is separated from its squadron, low on fuel, heading home, perfect target. The Japanese pilots outnumber him 4-1. They have altitude advantage. They have surprise. They attack. Standard tactics, split formation, attack from 4 angles simultaneously. Force the American to pick one threat and expose himself to the others. The P-38 doesn't turn. It flies straight toward the lead fighter, head-on, closing speed 600 miles per hour. The Japanese pilot thinks this is suicide. Head-on passes favor whoever has stronger nerves. Both pilots shoot. Both risk collision. It's gambling, not tactics. He holds his course. He opens fire at 800 yards. His tracer rounds arc toward the P-38. He sees them miss. Convergence problem, too far for accurate fire. The P-38 fires at 600 yards. The Japanese pilot's instrument panel explodes. His windscreen shatters. His engine catches fire. He bails out at 400 yards. The P-38 flies through the space where his fighter used to be. The other 3 Japanese pilots watch their lead die in 4 seconds. They break off. New doctrine says don't engage. They follow it. They run. Intelligence files another report. The experimental weapon theory has a problem. If the P-38 has a targeting system, why does it work at 600 yards but Japanese guns miss at 800 yards? Same distance, same conditions, different results. The theory is wrong. They need a new one. May 1944. Japanese engineers get their hands on a crashed P-38. The pilot survived. The plane didn't. It's scattered across a hillside in pieces, but the gun system is intact. They examine everything. The gun mounts, the barrels, the firing mechanisms, the ammunition feeds. They measure angles, they check alignments, they run calculations. And they find nothing special. 4 50 caliber machine guns. 1 20mm cannon. Standard American ammunition. Standard firing rates. Standard barrel lengths. No modifications. No experimental systems. No targeting computers. Just 5 guns bolted into the nose of the aircraft exactly the way designed them in 1939. The engineers write their report. No evidence of experimental weapons. No evidence of modified systems. Armament configuration matches standard P-38F specifications. Recommendation. Hypothesis rejected. But the hypothesis made sense. Perfect groupings require perfect aiming. Standard guns don't group perfectly. Something has to be different. The engineers missed something. They must have. Intelligence brings in American prisoners. They interrogate P-38 pilots. They ask about targeting systems. Secret modifications. Special training, experimental programs. The prisoners look confused. They don't know what the interrogators are talking about. P-38s have guns in the nose. You point, you shoot, that's it. The interrogators think the prisoners are lying. Americans hide their technology. Everyone knows that. They protect their secrets, so the interrogators ask again and again. And the prisoners give the same answer. Standard guns, standard setup, nothing special. Japanese command faces a problem. Their theory is wrong. The evidence proves it, but the kills continue. 3 more fighters, then 2 more, then 4 in one day. Same pattern, same accuracy, same mystery. A staff officer suggests a new theory. Maybe it's not the weapon, maybe it's the pilot. Think about it. One P-38 doing all the killing, not multiple aircraft. One, same plane, same markings, same tactics. Intelligence confirms it. Witnesses describe the same aircraft in multiple engagements. Same nose art, same paint scheme. A picture of a woman on the fuselage. The Americans call it Marge. So maybe this isn't about technology. Maybe it's about skill. One exceptional pilot flying standard equipment to exceptional results, like a sniper with a standard rifle. The weapon doesn't matter if the shooter is good enough. This theory also makes sense. The Japanese have aces, pilots with 20, 30, 40 kills, men who can fly a zero like it's part of their body. Why can't Americans have the same? Maybe this pilot is just that good. Maybe he's trained differently. Maybe he has better eyesight, better reflexes, better instincts. Evidence supports this too. The P-38 with the nose art never misses. Other P-38s shoot like normal fighters. They spray bullets. They waste ammunition. They score hits through volume of fire. But not this one. This one shoots like every bullet knows exactly where it's going. Japanese intelligence starts building a profile. Exceptional pilot, probably experienced, probably older than standard fighter pilots, probably trained in some special program. They search for information. They monitor radio traffic. They analyze combat reports. They find a name, Richard Bong, American lieutenant. Age 21. 21 years old. That doesn't match the profile. 21-year-olds don't shoot like that. 21-year-olds are reckless, undisciplined, inexperienced. They make mistakes. They die. They don't become aces. But the name keeps appearing. Same plane, same pilot, same impossible shooting. The profile is wrong. The theory is wrong. Japanese command needs a new explanation. But they're running out of ideas, and they're running out of time, because Richard Bong isn't slowing down. He's accelerating. New theory, June 1944. Japanese Tactical Analysis Group examines every engagement. They map locations. They chart altitudes. They note times of day. They look for patterns in the data. And they find one. Every kill happens above 15,000 feet. Every single one. The P-38 never attacks below that altitude. It never engages at medium altitude. It fights high or it doesn't fight at all. The analysts think they've solved it. It's about altitude performance. The P-38 has turbochargers, 2 of them, 1 per engine. Turbochargers compensate for thin air at high altitude. They maintain engine power where other engines lose it. The Zero doesn't have turbochargers. It has a naturally aspirated engine. Simple, light, efficient at low altitude, but at 20,000 feet the Zero loses 30% of its power. The air is too thin. The engine can't breathe, performance drops, maneuverability suffers. So maybe that's the secret. The P-38 forces fights at high altitude. It uses its altitude performance advantage. It shoots while the Zero is struggling with thin air and reduced power. By the time the Zero can respond, the P-38 is already gone, climbed higher or dived away using gravity assist. This theory has numbers behind it, engineering data, performance charts. The P-38's service ceiling is 39,000 feet. The Zero's service ceiling is 33,000 feet. That's 6,000 feet of advantage. Enough to dictate engagement terms. Enough to escape any time conditions turn bad. Japanese command tests the theory. They order pilots to refuse high-altitude engagements, stay below 12,000 feet, force the Americans to come down. If the P-38 follows, it loses its advantage. If it doesn't follow, it gets no kills. The order goes out. June 15, 1944. All fighter squadrons, new engagement parameters. Maximum combat altitude, 12,000 feet. If Americans stay high, let them stay high. Protect bombers and reconnaissance aircraft. Ignore the high-altitude fighters. For 2 weeks it works. 0 losses drop to almost nothing. The P-38 with nose art marge stays high. It doesn't come down. It doesn't engage. Japanese pilots breathe easier. They think they've beaten the system. Then a formation of Japanese bombers gets intercepted at 8,000 feet. 4 Zeros escort them. They're following doctrine. They're staying low. They're in their performance envelope. Safe altitude, controllable situation. The P-38 appears at their altitude. It doesn't dive from above. It's already at 8,000 feet. It attacks from the side. Head-on pass. 2 bombers explode in 5 seconds. The Zeros turn to engage. Standard tactic. Outturn the P-38. Use the Zeros' natural advantage. The P-38 doesn't turn with them. It flies straight through. Shoots the lead Zero through the engine. Keeps going. Disappears into a cloud bank. The remaining Zeros chase. They find nothing. The P-38 is gone, like it was never there. The altitude theory is dead. The P-38 fights low just as effectively as it fights high. Altitude advantage is not the answer. So what is? Nobody knows. Not Japanese intelligence. Not Japanese command. Not the pilots who keep dying. The mystery deepens. The kills continue. And Richard Bong keeps adding numbers to the scoreboard painted on his aircraft. 15 kills, then 20, then 25. The impossible accuracy doesn't change. The tactics don't change. And nobody understands why. The answer was so obvious that every expert missed it. It wasn't in the weapon. It wasn't in the pilot. It wasn't in altitude or tactics or training. It was in basic physics that everyone already understood but nobody had applied correctly. Wing-mounted guns have a problem. Put a gun on the left wing. Put a gun on the right wing. They're 6 feet apart. When they fire, the bullets leave the guns parallel to each other. They fly outward. They spread apart. To make them hit the same target, you have to angle the guns inward. You have to point them at a convergence point. Choose 300 yards. Angle the guns so the bullet streams cross at 300 yards. At that distance, all bullets hit the same spot. Perfect grouping, maximum damage, but only at 300 yards. At 200 yards, the bullets haven't converged yet. They're still spreading. They fly past both sides of the target. You see impacts on the wings. You see hits on the tail, but you don't see concentrated damage. You don't destroy the engine. You don't kill the pilot. At 500 yards, the bullets have already crossed. Now they're spreading apart again. Same problem, different direction. You get hits scattered across the target. You see damage. You don't see destruction. The sweet spot is narrow, maybe 250 to 350 yards. Outside that range, convergence kills your accuracy. You have to think about geometry while someone is shooting back at you. You have to estimate distance. You have to compensate. You have to hope you're at the right range when you pull the trigger. Every fighter aircraft in World War II has this problem. P-51 Mustang, Thunderbolt, P-40, Spitfire, Hurricane. They all mount guns in the wings. They all deal with convergence. They all have a sweet spot distance. They all miss outside that distance. Except one. The P-38 Lightning has its engines on the booms. The twin fuselage design, the fork-tailed configuration. That design puts engines and propellers out on the wings. It leaves the center section empty. Just a pod for the pilot. Nothing blocking the space in front of him. So engineers put all the guns there. 450 caliber machine guns. 120mm cannon, all mounted in the nose, all clustered together in a space the size of a kitchen table, all pointing straight ahead, parallel to each other. No angle, no convergence point. When a P-38 pilot pulls the trigger, 5 weapons fire simultaneously. The bullets don't spread. They don't converge. They fly straight. They stay together. They form a column of metal 1 foot wide that reaches out 1,000 yards without dispersing, like a laser beam made of lead. There is no sweet spot. There is no distance calculation. If your nose is pointed at the target, the bullets hit the target. At 200 yards, at 400 yards, at 800 yards. The math is the same, point and shoot. This isn't secret technology. It's not experimental. It's basic mechanical arrangement. The guns are in the nose because there's nowhere else to put them. The accuracy is perfect because convergence isn't involved. Any P-38 pilot could use this advantage. Most don't, because doctrine says don't fly head-on toward the enemy. Doctrine says head-on passes are gambling. Both pilots shoot. Both pilots risk collision. Whoever blinks first loses. Whoever panics first dies. It's a game of nerve, not tactics, not skill, just raw willpower and luck. But doctrine was written for wing-mounted guns, for convergence problems, for sweet spot distances. Doctrine assumes you have to worry about range. You have to estimate distance. You have to hope you're at 300 yards when you shoot. The P-38 doesn't have that problem. The P-38 pilot can shoot from anywhere. He can open fire at 800 yards. His bullets will still group tight at 600 yards, at 400 yards, at 200 yards. The distance doesn't matter. He's not gambling. He's executing a mathematical certainty. And Richard Bong understood this before anyone else did. Bong never read doctrine manuals carefully. He was a farm kid from Wisconsin, 21 years old. Baby face, round cheeks. He looked like he should be bagging groceries, not flying the most advanced interceptor in the American arsenal. When he arrived in California for training, the other pilots wrote him off as a washout waiting to happen. Then he buzzed the Golden Gate Bridge, flew under the span, looped around the cables, scattered laundry across a backyard in Oakland. Got escorted off the flight line by military police. General George Kenney made him wash the woman's sheets by hand. The other pilots called him Bing Bong. They called him a clown. But Bong wasn't a clown. He was an engineer. He sat in his tent in New Guinea looking at technical diagrams. He studied the P-38 specifications. He studied the Zero specifications. He read the doctrine manual. He saw what everyone else missed. Doctrine said never fly head-on, too dangerous, no advantage, both fighters shoot, both fighters die or both fighters live, 50-50 odds, gambling, don't do it. But that advice assumed convergence. It assumed both pilots had to worry about range. It assumed equal accuracy. It assumed the math was the same on both sides. The math wasn't the same. The Zero had wing-mounted guns. The Zero pilot had to estimate distance. He had to hope his convergence point matched his actual range. If he shot at 400 yards but his guns converged at 300 yards, his bullets spread wide. They missed. He got no hits. Bong had nose-mounted guns. No convergence, no range estimation. No geometry problem. He pointed his nose at the Zero. He pulled the trigger. The bullets flew straight. They hit. At 800 yards, the Zero pilot couldn't hit him. Too far outside convergence range. Bullets spread too wide. Maybe one random hit if luck favored the Japanese pilot. Maybe. At 800 yards, Bong's bullets grouped within 12 inches of each other. 50 caliber rounds punching through aluminum skin. 20-millimeter cannon shells exploding inside the engine. 4 seconds of continuous fire. The Zero ceased to exist. The Japanese pilot never understood what happened. He saw the P-38. He opened fire. He saw his bullets miss. He saw fire from the P-38. He died. 2 seconds between seeing the American plane and feeling the bullets hit. No time to react. No time to turn. No time to escape. Doctrine violation. Every rule in the book said don't fly head-on. Bong did it anyway, not because he was reckless, because he understood the physics. The rule was written for planes with wing-mounted guns. He didn't have wing-mounted guns. The rule didn't apply to him. Every other P-38 pilot followed doctrine. They used boom and zoom tactics. Dive fast, shoot, climb away, don't turn with the Zero, don't get into a knife fight, stay fast, stay safe. It worked, sometimes. Bong ignored it. He flew straight at the enemy. He picked head-on angles that other pilots avoided. He shot from distances that should have been too far. And he killed with perfect consistency, because he was the only pilot in the Pacific who understood that his weapon system had no range limitation. The Japanese formed wrong theories because they looked at results and tried to explain them. Experimental weapons, exceptional pilot, altitude advantage, All reasonable guesses, all wrong. The real answer was simpler. Richard Bong had a gun that shot straight. He pointed it at targets. They died, that's it. The manual said never engage a zero in a turning fight. Bong followed that rule. He never turned. The manual said maintain speed advantage through diving attacks. Bong ignored that rule. He attacked from level flight. The manual said avoid head-on passes due to convergence uncertainty. Bong violated that rule every single time he encountered the enemy, because for him, there was no convergence uncertainty. At 300 yards, a zero pilot with wing-mounted guns had maximum accuracy. At 300 yards, Bong had the same accuracy he had at 600 yards, or 200 yards, or 800 yards. The distance didn't change his effectiveness. It only changed how much time the enemy had to react. Longer distance meant more warning. The zero pilot saw him coming, tried to turn, tried to evade, sometimes succeeded in breaking off before Bong could shoot. At 300 yards, there was no warning time. The zero pilot saw the P-38. Bong pulled the trigger. The zero exploded. 3 seconds total. This wasn't bravery. This wasn't skill. This was applied physics. Bong turned his aircraft into a flying turret. He didn't maneuver to get angles. He flew straight lines and let the enemy maneuver into his field of fire. When they turned, he shot. When they dove, he shot. When they climbed, he shot. The nose guns didn't care about angles. They cared about aim. The doctrine writers never considered this. They wrote rules for P-51s and P-47s and P-40s, aircraft with standard gun placement, standard convergence problems, standard sweet spot distances. They those rules into the P-38 manual because nobody tested the difference. Bong tested it. Every combat sortie was a test. Shoot at 700 yards, bullets hit. Shoot at 500 yards, bullets hit. Shoot at 300 yards, bullets definitely hit. Shoot while inverted, bullets hit. Shoot while climbing, bullets hit. The gun platform moved. The bullets still flew straight. By summer 1944, other pilots started copying him. They watched his gun camera footage. They saw the perfect groupings. They asked how he did it. He told them, point the nose, shoot, don't worry about distance. The bullets go where you aim. It sounds obvious now. It wasn't obvious then. Pilots trained for years thinking about convergence. They practice range estimation. They learn sweet spot distances. They internalize wing-mounted gun behavior. Breaking that mental model requires seeing proof that the model doesn't apply. Bong was the proof. 40 confirmed kills, 0 losses, perfect accuracy at any range. Other P-38 pilots started using head-on tactics. Kill rates increased across the squadron. The Japanese couldn't adapt because there was nothing to adapt to. You can't counter physics. The scoreboard broke. Set the American record in World War I with 26 kills. That number stood for decades. Experts said modern aerial combat was too fast, too lethal, too chaotic for anyone to match it. Bong passed 26 in September 1944. He kept going. 27, 30, 35. The Army started printing medals faster than he could accumulate them. Intelligence officers who called his head-on tactic suicide were now writing reports on how brilliant it was. Flight schools started teaching his methods to cadets. But the Army had a problem. Bong was becoming too valuable to risk. He wasn't just a pilot anymore. He was a national asset, the face of the air war. If he got shot down, it wouldn't just be a tragedy. It would be a propaganda disaster for the United States and a massive morale boost for Japan. Command grounded him, told him to go home, sell war bonds, shake hands with politicians. Bong hated it. He was a hunter, not a salesman. He convinced them to let him return as an instructor. Claimed he would just teach new pilots, wouldn't seek combat. Strange thing happened. Every time Bong went out to instruct, Japanese fighters fell out of the sky. He claimed self-defense. The generals rolled their eyes and added another kill to the tally. Final count, 40 confirmed kills. 40 times he flew into a space where people were trying to kill him. 40 times he won the math problem. Highest scoring American pilot in history, a record that still stands, a record that will likely never be broken. General Kenny, the man who made him wash sheets in Oakland, pinned the Medal of Honor around his neck in December 1944. The reckless kid was now the hero of the Pacific Theater. The suicide pilot was the survivor. The Japanese never figured it out. Even after the war ended, intelligence reports from captured documents show they thought Bong had experimental weapons. They never understood it was just basic gun placement. They wrote the convergence problem into their tactical assumptions. Those assumptions killed their pilots. By early 1945, the war was ending. Japan was collapsing. The Pacific was secure. The Army sent Bong home for good. He married Marge, the girl whose face flew with him through the fire. He was 24 years old. He had survived the worst air combat in human history without a scratch. He should have lived to be 90. Fate has a twisted sense of irony. August 6, 1945. Burbank, California, test flight, not combat, not danger. Just a routine evaluation of a new jet fighter called the P-80 Shooting Star. The primary fuel pump failed on takeoff. The engine quit. The jet became a falling brick. Bong was too low to eject. He stayed with the aircraft, guided it away from residential homes, cleared the houses, pulled the canopy release. Too late. The plane hit the ground and exploded. The man who survived 40 death matches in the Pacific died from a mechanical failure in his own backyard. On that exact same day, half a world away, the gay dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The world changed in an instant. The headlines screamed about the atomic age. News of Richard Bong's death was buried on the back pages. A quiet footnote to the end of the war. We remember him because he proved that doctrine is just a guide, not a law. He proved that impossible is just an opinion held by people too scared to try something new. He looked at a heavy, clumsy plane everyone hated and saw a weapon that could win the war. He looked at a terrifying enemy and realized they were only invincible if you played by their rules. The P-38 Lightning is gone now. Most were scrapped, melted down for aluminum siding. The Zeros are gone, rotting in jungles or rusting on the ocean floor. But the lesson remains. Why did Richard Bong vaporize 40 Japanese fighters while everyone else struggled? Because he had nose-mounted guns with no convergence problem. He could shoot straight at any range. He violated doctrine not because he was reckless, but because he understood the physics better than the people who wrote the rules. Point your nose at the danger, throttle up, refuse to blink. Sometimes that's the only way to win.